budget is a state of mind. Budget for what? You ever ask an addict how they get their daily fixes without having a job? They just get it. They find a way. You can cheat and skimp on a lot of things in life with no real consequence, but then there are just some things you just shouldn't do it on. When those things that bring you joy and keep you safe when you're making questionable decisions and unethical practices just for a thrill. You don't want to be the person that says, man, I wish I would have built that better. And neither do I. I want to keep on fishing, because this is the way. Quick reminder that the countdown is happening. At the East Tennessee Fishing Show in January 2023, only a few weeks away, we will give this boat to somebody. And that somebody could be you if you register. The link to enter is pinned in the comments. Take a few seconds to enter, and the winner could be you. I'd also like to give a huge shout out and thanks to Time USB. They sent this battery to me to demo in my travel trailer for another channel, but it's really cold and I'm not going to go RVing, and my AGM battery took a crap and I needed to replace it with something that is better, more output, and way lighter, and this battery is perfect. If you're going to run your boat off a 55-pound trolling motor, the max voltage output really helps from a nice battery like that one with 100 amp hours, and this one got me the max gain, and I needed it later, as you will see. The bigger thing about it was their attention to detail in the instruction manual, which told me a bunch of things that I get questions from people all the time, like how to do all this stuff. I don't know, but they sent you a manual because they're dealing with travel trailers and recreational vehicles that have inverters and solar panel hookups and all these other complicated things that boats don't have to deal with. So it is just a fantastic battery for all-around outdoor use. Link is in the description below. Also keep in mind that this battery is being used in this boat throughout this video so you can monitor its performance during use. All right, time to grind all day. Let's see what we can pull out. What's going on, guys? Let me go ahead and give you a tour of the boat because I know you guys have wanted to see an update. You wanted more than just time lapse. And I promise you I wanted that here, but I just have not had, I've been overwhelmed with stuff and I have not had a good day of fishing on this boat. It's like the first ever. Generally when, I think I did it wrong. Like generally I'll go out and fish it for its first debut, but for the first debut I like went out and tested it to see how it would actually run. And then I went back and ever since then it's like I broke tradition. It has not been, it's been a little tough. Only caught like one fish. And well, I've caught a handful of fish at night, but I ain't videotaping that. But as far as like during the day, it's a nice day. When it's a nice days like this, the fish don't like, I missed two. I have the strategy where in days like this, where it's just clear and calm, I have this strategy to target lazy fish that are stuck in the reeds, that are big ones. And I missed two of them. It burns my soul right now that I missed those two, because that would have been a great. But here, since I'm not catching anything and I'm kind of hungry, let's go and do this tour. So right now the trolling motor is going. It's actively in pro nav. It's actually just keeping me straight. We patrol this whole line straight down in to try and just do my little pass. And I got my rigs. I have most of my stuff here on this side meant for diving. So I have big baits that specifically dive and get down between 10 and 20 feet. And then some that'll reach even really deep if you make them so you can jig. Well, this one is stuck on the wrong side. Try and keep them separated. Not that it's a big deal. And all my swim baits over here. I got a few new ones in the line. That really look killer in the water. Assume is that if the day ramps up and what happens later I think we'll get on some pretty good fish here. But you just got my whole little spread here. The benches, I really just needed them to hold all the rods. And so what I do is I just have rod keepers. And I thought about this crazy way, because the rod lockers, what they really do is they just keep your stuff from getting stolen. And I just had an idea as I was thinking on how to make actual rod locks that just go over your rod so nobody can actually take them or slide them out or move them. I just thought about it right now. So what this boat has done is given me a lot of process to think about problems that you can solve on a minimalist boat, because this is a minimalist boat. Because really, I love the cockpit. I do. It is a very nice accommodation, because if I'd have added rod lockers here or even here, or just at least one, then I would have had to store all my batteries on one side and done some other things to have a deck this short and have a cockpit this big. So I could have done that, and probably would have been the better idea to do that. But I didn't do that. Just trying to be conservative, because people are always saying, why you stick so many hatches? Only stick like 1 or 2 hatches. Oh, I got like 2 hatches, 2 plus the battery hatches. There's a battery on each side to disperse weight distribution, and that's mainly the whole reason we did this. So, but because of the lack of storage, because I generally outrun the deck all the way back here and have extra storage, and then I'll have 2 lockers, and then one of these storage boxes would end up being like the battery compartment or the well. And because this boat is fairly small, it's like 13.5 feet, we just chose to keep it conservative per the audience demand, and then just add a very, very generous like cockpit. And so I have enjoyed the very generous cockpit. It's about 2 to 3 times bigger than the majority of the cockpits that I have. Generally, I'm just like, the boat needs to be as fishable as possible. Just have enough room for your feet to stick in there, and then you possibly flip a fish in there, and that's it. Everything else needs to be fishable. But truth be told, I really do like it. I just didn't like the lack of storage. So what we have done is we have really accommodated a lot of that by making these vertical day boxes. And the new ones will have plier holders. See, so these are our corner caddies. And those are straight caddies that go either on our trolling motor mounts or in the side of the cockpit, just like this. They have hook holes like this. And then I really do love this one. The corner caddy just jams right in the side of a cockpit. So every tiny boater pretty much has a cockpit. Anybody who's running a tiller life boat has like a vertical corner this thing can go just jam into. And then these, I don't know how, I mean, I really started to dislike the boat because I couldn't have anywhere to like a day box. And so we made these vertical day boxes. And they really are just the most wonderful thing. I don't know what I would have done without them. They store everything: bait attractant, loose, tackle, this, bottles of stuff, just things that I needed in life. All the randomness things that you possibly might need to run into. Got grab handles here, and that little mesh box. We stuck it over there, and that just like holds my wallet and keys or anything that loose that I just need to throw in there. That's all it's really good for. But really, I mean, I threw my butt seat down here because I don't want it up here right now. I put the my whole net fits in the cockpit. It can fit in the side. The bigger problem when we ran a full tiller life build like a crazy bass boat rig is like there was nowhere good place to put the net. It was never a good place to put the net. Sometimes we would drape it over the motor if the motor was small enough to drape the net over, and that was like your best bet. So there's a very noticeable difference with raising the jack plate. I have it right to the right section. You want to kind of, to get the max speed out of this whole thing on the one stock trim pin setting, you know, I just cranked it slowly as I was tilling it. It is very much a doable thing while you're tilling and doing this on the fly. Like if I wasn't holding my phone right now, I'd be holding the handle. Well, adjusting it every so often, one turn, see how it does one turn. And then you want to keep going until you start hearing some ventilation, or what people think is cavitation, but it's actually just ventilation. Is your motor grabbing air and circling it back in and creating bubbles and creating that gargling sound. That's when you know you've gone too far. You want to back it off. And then there you should get your max speed as long as your trim pin setting is correct. Now I am okay with the trim pin setting now. Historically, on boats like this, that has been the best one. That one right there. We could back it out one more and see what we could get out of it there, but I think we'll suffer when we start to get a load in. So I'm gonna keep it here, and I got gauges up on the Garmin, so let's see what we're gonna do here. 3.2 at 80, 70, 80, I don't know. Go ahead and crank it all the way open for about a few seconds. I think we ran out of prop, honestly. Super oxygenated water. So oxygenated it's white. Somewhere down the line, I didn't seal the middle of the transom. It's pouring in the middle of the transom. Every time the water hits a certain level of the transom, it pours in water. It means I forgot to seal a hole before I put that jack plate on. Like an idiot. I don't know what to do about that. I'll probably try to cheat it with some 5200 inside the gaps of the jack plate. That way it catches whatever that hole is. But that's a pretty serious... That's the only leak though. Nothing leaks in the bottom. But I show you that in here I put like almost a 3-inch lift, a 2+ inch lift there, like pretty much level with the subfloor. That gap
So the water never actually touches the foam pockets at the back. They pretty much stay completely dry. No real way for water to attack it from underneath or on top because it's sealed. Remember, we sealed the whole deck. So this is just a minor nuisance. We'll stop doing it. The boat will be out of the water. By the way, the boat is pretty stable. Yeah, it's got good roll variance. I mean, the rolling is what it is, but it's fairly wide, and I'll tell you, once you put pressure on the side, you do have quite a bit of resistance to rolling too deep, where, you know, on some of the V-holes like this size, you can almost roll this thing all the way into the water. So, not a problem here. Actually, we have a really good degree of stoppage. That's good, because when we have more weight with people on here, it's going to obviously increase, so that'll stop a little bit. But I do think the battery offset, that actually does help with the roll stability. I mean, in that it don't necessarily stop it from rolling more, but it rolls slower because it has to counter the weight on each side. And you can feel that. I physically have to push. Like, as long as you can kind of time the roll, you know it's about to roll, it's way easier to do that. It's when you have all the weight in the middle and the sides are super light that you make one sudden move and it rolls real quick on you. That's when you lose your balance and you fall in. That's when people fall in. The motor did pretty good, considering we stuck that. I forgot that we had stuck that thing on the SC200, that hydrofoil. We stuck that in anticipation that it would start having porpoising issues. How we had all the weight laid out. Pretty much all the weight in this boat is laid out in the back 50. Like, there's the 50 mark, and then there's the batteries, and then there's the gas tank, and there's the motor. In the front up here, obviously we have gear in here, but it doesn't near amount equal what that equals. So a lot of the weight is back there. So in anticipation for that, we did set the hydrofoil. But when we jack that on the fly jack plate, on the fly jack plate, that thing is, I don't know where it raises max. I don't want to touch it because it's perfect right now where it is. It can still go up. We can bring this motor even higher out of the water. And when we brought it out, I mean, we brought it out to where I say we got the best performance and speed. That hydrofoil was completely out of the water. Like, it was not in the water dragging. It was obviously on the top, kind of coupling the water, keeping it down, but I don't really know if we lost speed or gained speed. The only way to be able to tell, generally we would run the motor without it and then run it with it to be able to tell, but generally you lose about a mile or two with that thing on. It just drags. It's just initial drag. Theoretically, out of the 10 pitch, with this boat in its current layout, we could have seen about 24 or 25 with no hydrofoil.
So a lot of people did like this boat, and a lot of people said it missed the mark completely when it came to budget. So I guess budget is relative to the person in terms of what they want their boat to become and what they're going to use it for. Out here on this lake, this is a very high pressure and very moody lake. At any given time, you can get wrecked. It's not frequent that somebody gets injured or dies out here on the lake, but it is not uncommon. There is a certain way to fish this lake that only a few have ever been shown. I was one of those people who were shown the way, and now I'm the only one who remains that still does it. Other people can throw big baits and grind out with bass boats, but none of them will go out in the suck. None of them will go deep to find them when you need to, when everybody else is rappelling to get off the water because they're scared. That's when you go in. And because of this, I don't just build my boats to fish. I build them for war. I've made my own baits to tailor this type of fishing, so it doesn't even matter if you see this strategy. You don't have the baits, and the vast majority of you simply don't have the guts to come out here at this time. For every last snowbird who followed me around like a creep trying to find out how I caught my fish, or every last tournament bass fisherman pretending to play stupid about rules for approachment that they'll acknowledge for their own people, but not for us. Maybe calm waters and clear skies will do it for you, but for the very few of us who know better, this is when you go out. I was the only one at the ramp, the only truck in the parking lot, and the only one on this lake as far as I can see. This is how I like it. You're gonna have to pick your poison. Deal with people, floods of them, all over the lake that won't give you any privacy, or deal with the weather. Make a deal with it. Respect it. So far, it really isn't that bad. Just enough to scare all the sheep. And I'm coming to this lake and trying to learn how to fish it. I always wished I had a bait that would cast a mile and sink like a rock through wind, that will dive deep enough, that will have a true bait fish profile like this lake has. The water is so clear that they can see everything, and if you don't have the perfect profile, they won't bite. Right now I'm trying to target bass that are targeting gizzard shad in the reeds because that's where they're hiding, throwing swim baits right outside of it. But then the weather changes, and I didn't see it coming. all of a sudden, the weather picked up. The water was too cloudy, I couldn't see that it got shallow, and when I tried to back out, the waves kept sinking me into the ground, and my trolling motor kept bottoming out. And before I knew it, I just got beached in high winds and high waves, and I have to push this boat out of it and get my motors unstuck. Right now, both the trolling motor and the outboard are pinned into the ground. The water is freezing, and the waves keep rocking me. I have to unpin both motors and still somehow keep the boat from slamming further into the shoreline. If I'd had a bass boat and had done this, it would have been my worst nightmare. There's no way I by myself could pull that boat off. But fear not, ladies and gentlemen, for I have a tiny boat, and a very well built one that people criticize me for the budget. But well, now you see the fruits of their labor. For now, where I was almost doomed, I'm now just to suffer a little bit of embarrassment. The shoreline there is pretty rocky, and there is a chance that the hull is damaged on the bottom and that I won't be able to see it until it's on the trailer. But I'm not worried, because we stuck a very copious amount of foam in this boat, one that exceeds any sort of weight limit that we can put in it, unless we stick a cow in there. That actually went exceptionally well. I mean, sure, it was stupid for it to happen to begin with, and that was a fail, and I should have, not turned off my shallow water alarm on the Garmin. I actually think I even had it on, so, well, maybe a little bit more well thought. This is just a new strategy that I implemented when I saw where the gizzards were. So I developed a swim bait to a certain buoyancy where it almost all but completely suspends, with a very, very ultra slow sink rate that you can just tweak around the reeds in and out, so it looks like a bait fish hiding around the reeds. And the bigger fish, the lazier ones that are just trying to ambush a bait, will come and suck it. I missed 2 again today. It's just my curse. Part of it was because I had to keep readjusting the boat. I look out to see what next patch of toolies I'm going to target, and all I see are white caps that were not there before, and wind that keeps picking up. And though I'm safe in this cove, the weather is only slated to get worse, and if I don't get out now, I'm stuck. I remember very distinctly taking my primary build out in times like this, and the whole boat would shudder to death, and I hated it. How it made me feel, how it made the whole boat felt like it was just gonna break, even though it didn't. And I wanted to stop that. And the only way you're gonna stop a little 14-foot tin hull made in the 1960s from shuddering is with lots of foam put in key spots to make the hull rigid. I also added a grab handle right where my right hand is. My left hand is on the tiller and my right hand is on the grab handle. And a few times, at least 3 or 4, I can remember distinctly that had I not had my hand on that handle, I would have been thrown from the boat very, very convincingly. I also get asked a lot what the best size motor for a 14-foot boat is. And the answer is a 20 horsepower if your boat's rated for it. Most of them are rated 20 horsepower max because they run off the same block as a 15. They're just not hindered. And so I made it sure that I got a 20. I did not want any issues dragging out of the hull or getting through waves like this, where I was just completely bogged down and I couldn't move. And that has happened before when your boat is underpowered and it stinks. When I was building this boat, all that could go through my head is, how is it ever going to survive situations like this? How is it going to do it correctly? When people wanted a budget, I think there's just different things that go through people's head. Me, I'm thinking, what is the cheapest boat I can get away with that'll still do this correctly without having any problems? And I think we did achieve that with this boat very, very convincingly. And now my situation and my experience here, though embarrassing, solidifies it. The boat got mercilessly smashed by waves of all different sizes, and it didn't shudder once. It was even airborne a few times, more times than I care to even experience ever again. And it still didn't shudder. Despite the excessive amounts of waves, I was still able to get on plane and maintain plane for a while. It wasn't until I got into a series of ridiculous chop that I even got slowed down. I think I was doing around 20 miles an hour through the chop, no lie. Make your budget whatever is going to get your job done for you. But for something like this, you might have to lay aside the hamburger or the Starbucks coffee or the 6-pack or the cigarettes. You might have to just budget it out a little bit on that side to get your budget right on this side. Thank you guys. Be safe.